Sovereign of Fortune by Mason Paul. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved. Hunter is helping me pass these out, Kirby smiled, handing Zack a flyer. Missing, Amy Cho, read the headline. It was the missing girl he saw on television earlier. I met her while giving the freshman orientation tour, Kirby said. She was really shy. I hope she's okay, Zack offered, genuinely concerned. She's been missing for 3 weeks, Kirby explained. Something is up. Students are disappearing left and right. If only you could save the world. Hunter taunted. Her parents must be worried sick. Kirby commented, ignoring Hunter's wisecrack. Probably ran off with some guy, Hunter dismissed. Kirby locked eyes with Zack. Can you do me a favor? She asked. Sure, he croaked, entranced by her gaze. She shifted the weight of the thick stack of flyers she carried to one arm. Wow, she's stronger than she looks, Zack thought. Would you help me pass these out? She peeled off a sliver of flyers. Zack reached for them. She hefted him the entire stack instead. Zack's knees buckled under the weight. They were heavier than they looked. You're such a sweetheart, Kirby smiled, her eyes lingering. No problem, Zack said, adjusting his hold on the stack. Anyways, we gotta go, she said, turning suddenly. See you around. Zack's heart weighed heavier than the stack he was holding as he watched Kirby practically skip away with Hunter Connor Greenway in tow. Everyone knew Hunter got all the girls. It had been that way since high school. Still, out of all the girls on campus, why his? Then again, Kirby wasn't his girl, he reminded himself. Not yet, anyway. Ew, what's that on the back of his pants? He overheard some girl say as he hauled the flyers and his ass down the hall to lab. Well, look who's decided to grace us with his presence. Zack would have found Professor Ravenna sexy if she weren't so damn intimidating, tall and blonde with the demeanor of a Valkyrie. The laboratory echoed with the sharp .22 caliber clack of stilettos as she strode towards him. Her lab coat billowed behind her like a rustling flag, blown by the Arctic blast of the AC, revealing a predilection for fishnet stockings. Sorry I'm late, he mumbled, staring at the floor tile. Steely blue eyes bore down on him through goggle-covered horn-rimmed glasses, regarding him with part pity and part contempt. No skin off my back, she said, her voice icy and distant. Your lab partner, on the other hand, may feel differently. Zack looked up from the floor. Her gaze pierced him like an arrow. Despite the freezing AC, he began to sweat. Her eyes narrowed as she studied the thick stack of flyers in his arms. Where is your laboratory notebook? Damn it! He knew he had forgotten something. He was so distracted thinking about Kirby. I don't know, he whimpered. She just stared at him. Zack feared she was going to flunk him on the spot. He wanted to crawl into a hole and die. She continued staring at him for what felt like an eternity. Eventually, she shook her head and sighed. You'll just have to copy your data from your lab partner, she said nonchalantly, as though she never cared in the first place. Who is your lab partner anyway? Dud Dexter, he stammered. Sweat beads gathered on his forehead as he scanned the room looking for the pudgy foreign exchange student who wore loud polka dot shirts and always smelled of chocolate. He was nowhere to be seen. Just my luck, Zack thought. That guy loves lab. He must be dead or something. Right, you've been working with Dexter, Professor Ravenna confirmed, checking her roll. Looks like he's not here. How unfortunate. How about you join? She scanned the room. Her eyes landed on Charlie, an awkward blonde girl slumped sullenly on her lab stool. Professor Ravenna looked back at Zack and just shook her head. I can't put you with her. No matter what experiment she does, she manages to catch it on fire, the professor confided. I swear that girl could catch water on fire. She sighed and continued scanning the room. Her eyes fell on 2 girls working together in the back, a short redhead and a tall brunette, Alexis Kelly and Morgan Margolis. Perfect. Morgan was a grade A bookworm and physics prodigy, on track for graduate studies at MIT or Caltech. Her tomboy bestie Alexis wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, but she probably carried one. Ravenna wouldn't put it past Alexis to stick Zack with it if he didn't pull his act together quickly. So it's Alexis, Morgan, and Zack for a threesome. The class snickered at the possibly unintended pun as a groan rolled from the back of the laboratory. Zack had seen Alexis and Morgan around for a while. Though they were besties and roomies, they were as different as night and day. Always together if you saw one, The other was somewhere around. Morgan was slim and elegant, yet studious. Her dark hair dangled in stray tassels like a naughty librarian. Alexis sported flaming red hair in a trendy undercut. Her emerald green eyes caught the light like the sparkle off a stolen jewel. Professor Ravenna strode over, heels clacking. Zack trailed behind like a frightened puppy. "Would you ladies—" She eyeballed Alexis with extra scrutiny. "Mind if Zack works in?" "Yeah, we mind," Alexis snapped, throwing her eyes like daggers. "But it looks like our minds don't matter." Ravenna's steely blues locked coldly on the younger, smaller woman like a bird of prey sizing up a feisty mouse. Measuring, weighing, calculating. "Why, Professor, what a lovely pendant you're wearing!" A shy but cheerful voice chimed in. The professor's head swiveled like an owl's, catching Morgan scrunching her pert little nose. Ravenna's demeanor softened, but her attention sharpened. "Why, thank you. Morgan," the professor replied with a vulpine smile, scrunching her nose back. Morgan's verbal sleight of hand worked on Alexis, too, who leaned in to examine the pendant and also the professor's cleavage. "Is that a bow and arrow?" the petite redhead asked. "I don't think so," said Morgan, leaning in as well. "That's a crescent moon connected to the morning star. Is it a symbol of some order or sorority? Are you a member of the astronomy club, Professor?" Professor Ravenna ignored them, scribbling in her roll book instead. "Well, which is it?" Alexis pressed. "Yes," Professor Ravenna said, looking up with a weak smile. She turned to Zack. "Goggles?" then walked away. "Right," Zack said, moving quickly to the supply cabinet, ignoring the hushed giggles of his classmates. "Ew, what's that on his pants?" snickered a voice. Zack grabbed a pair of pre-fogged plastic goggles, greasy from the hair product of dozens of wearers. The tight rubber straps felt like they cut off blood flow to his brain. By the time he returned to the lab bench, the professor was long gone, leaving him to face Morgan and Alexis alone. Zack had a bad feeling about this arrangement. Sure, he liked working with smart, beautiful women. After all, who wouldn't? But these two, well, at least it was clear the redhead would rather see him drop dead on the linoleum floor than join their group. Alexis was still watching the professor walk away while Morgan turned her eyes to Zack. "So we're calculating the period of a pendulum," Morgan began. Normally shy and reserved, the tall girl bubbled with excitement. Zack could tell she was in her element. They locked eyes, and Zack began to wonder if maybe she was excited about something else. "We want to know how long it takes for one full swing," she continued. "This depends on factors like length and the mass of the balls." Zack struggled to keep up, but his thoughts kept swinging between Kirby and Hunter. Did she stand me up for him? Everyone knew Hunter got the girls, but did he get Kirby too? He's not even her type. She's caring and compassionate, always looking out for others. Hunter is a knuckle-dragging meathead, always looking out for himself. What could she possibly see in him? Then again, what does any woman see in a rugged 6'6", 240-pound stud with washboard abs, square jaw, and a full head of thick blonde hair? Surely it would take more than superficial looks to impress a girl like Kirby, especially if Hunter still treats people the way he did in grade school. "So do you want to release the pendulum or work the timer?" Morgan asked, a cheery smile on her face. Suddenly snapping back into the present, Zack replied with a, "Huh?" "If you want to release the pendulum, you'll need the protractor," Morgan explained. "You want me to program a tractor?" Zack asked. "He didn't pay attention to a word you said," Alexis interjected. "Looks like he's tripping on something. Professor!" she belted across the room. An annoyed voice returned. "What? Do we really have to work with this moron?" Alexis protested. Stony silence was her only reply. "Ugh!" Alexis groaned, palming her forehead with a fleshy smack. "How about this?" Morgan said, as if talking to a small child. "We'll worry about the experiment, and you just record the data." "You can do that?" "Yeah, sure," Zack muttered. For the rest of class, they ran the experiment. Morgan swung the pendulum, Alexis worked the timer, and Zack had zoned out. He was haunted by the vision of a naked Kirby on her hands and knees, writhing and moaning, while Hunter Connor Greenway pounded away behind her, wearing the same gorilla meathead scowl he had worn earlier. Suddenly he looked up, making eye contact with Zack. "It's nookie time! Earth to moron!" shrieked a shrill voice, breaking the spell. Zack's eyes popped open to see Alexis's emerald-eyed, freckle-faced mug inches from his face. "What are you on, man?" she demanded. Nothing," Zack whimpered. "Okay, then," Alexis tested him. "What was that last reading? 40 centimeters?" he ventured. "That was 14 degrees," Morgan corrected. The slim brunette glided behind him and peered over his shoulder, her breath warm and moist on the back of his neck, smelled of strawberry bubblegum. "These are all wrong," she said calmly. "Are you sure?" Zack whined. "Positive," Morgan affirmed. "Do you mean to tell me we did all this work for nothing?" Alexis protested, her voice getting loud. "Hey, I'm really sorry," Zack began before Alexis cut him off. "You got that right, moron," she gritted through her teeth, her muscles tensed as though she were fighting an impulse to smack him. "You just wasted our time and may have fucked up our grade." "I'll fix it," Zack insisted. "I'll stay late and do the whole lab over myself. Even if we trusted you to do that, which we don't," Alexis interrupted. "Miss Bunsen Burner is already closing up shop. She wants to get out of here as bad as we do." "Maybe she's got a hot date tonight?" Morgan said, flashing Zack a coy smile. Alexis side-eyed the brunette. "At least somebody's getting some. You're not jealous, are you?" Morgan quipped. "Of old Bunsen Burner?" Alexis challenged, raising an eyebrow. "Please." Morgan draped a slender, delicate hand on Alexis's shoulder. Her touch soothed the redhead's rage. "Relax," she cooed. "We both have A's, so we can take a little hit." Unfortunately, Zack didn't already have an A. He was barely passing. This hit would sink his battleship. Already on academic probation, if he failed physics, he would be placed on academic suspension a second time, which meant he would be kicked out of UT once and for all. "So you're saying this idiot's fuck-up won't fuck us up?" Alexis confirmed. Morgan nodded her head. "Great, so let's get out of here," Alexis cheered, packing up her stuff. "If we motor, we can make it to the cafeteria before the rush. I could eat a horse." Zack's heart sank. This was it. He may as well just go back to his dorm room and start packing his shit. He was done. He had finally flunked out of UT for good. To be continued.